I am writing regarding my concerns about the William Tyrrell case and the way in which it has been handled across the board. The public is being fed a sympathetic, one-sided story of how loving and caring the foster parents are, which may be so, but because of the foster parents' anonymity, it becomes difficult to check. On the other hand, the biological parents have been dragged through the mud, as have many of the other people of interest in the case. Their past offences and wrongdoings have been exposed for all to see. Being anonymous in this situation is only a hindrance, as it creates an invisible shield to hide behind, while others not equipped with the same shield are totally exposed and made to look guilty whether they are innocent or not. Without being able to identify all parties concerned, those who are anonymous are eliminated from the scrutiny of any history or past offences. Where there is no face or name, there can be no eyewitness or any trail, or any forthcoming information that may be relevant to the case. It is clearly obvious that there are two sets of rules being played out here, leaving some at a far greater disadvantage than others. As demonstrated on social media under the heading Full Police Interview, we have the interviewer opening the conversation and continuing throughout the interview with such leading statements to the foster parents as, "Guys, this remains a high-profile case, and it is fair to say that everyone is feeling for you both at the moment, but they really can't walk a mile in your shoes because it's not happening to them." William Tyrrell's biological parents had to produce evidence to prove their statements of not being in Kendal at the time of William's disappearance, and rightly so. Their statements were put to the test, and the onus was on them to prove it. On the other hand, what proof do we have that William disappeared from his foster grandmother's yard on the 12th of September 2014 at approximately 10:30 a.m? Was the car that William travelled in to get to Kendal ever forensically tested? Was the grandmother's house forensically tested, or simply checked through with the assumption that no evidence would be forthcoming? Were the grazes found on the foster mother's hand on the day William went missing ever photographed, or on the word of one person were many of the checks and balances ignored? Most of what we have been given as fact about this case is alleged, yet not proven, although stated in such a way as to give the impression that it is a certainty, beyond doubt. As it was spoken, therefore it must be so. Example: there were two cars parked in the street. What constitutes a statement to be a fact when there is no evidence to prove it one way or the other? How can you truly investigate a case when you are already claiming to know what happened without any evidence to back it up? Were there any witnesses to reaffirm the claims? Any fresh tyre tracks that would indicate that the cars had been there? Had the sound of the motors been heard by the neighbours? Had these cars been seen cruising the streets on security cameras? Where is the evidence to prove that these cars ever existed? Is there any proof at all that puts these cars in Benaroon Drive on the morning of the 12th of September, or is it simply hearsay? If these two cars were parked in Benaroon Drive and there was evidence to prove it, then why were they facing towards the dead-end streets rather than to be in readiness for a quick escape? Why would they loiter about for so long without any concern of being seen, especially if their intention was to commit such an horrendous crime as to abduct a child? Have any of the drivers come forward to clear themselves, or is there an assumption that they were all involved? According to the foster mother, she saw the cars first when she awoke and went out onto the balcony, then again when she was playing with William in the yard later that morning. Just how long these cars were allegedly parked in Benaroon Drive depends on how long it took her to dress William into his Spider-Man's outfit, ring the washing machine mechanic, prepare and have breakfast, discuss plans for the day's activities, shower, or whatever else had transpired before going outside. By then, the probability of these cars being seen by others has become far more likely. It was a Friday morning, neighbours going to work, school drop-offs, trips into Kendal, or a simple gaze out the window would have enlightened someone to the fact of their presence. But by all accounts, they were not seen when parked in Benaroon Drive, not seen entering Benaroon Drive, or not seen exiting the cul-de-sac by anyone but the foster mother. Then there is the third car that had pulled into a neighbour's driveway, reversed and drove back down Benaroon Drive. In the initial police report, no occupants were seen, and then at the inquest, the foster mother stated that she had locked eyes with the driver and was able to give a very detailed description of what he looked like. He drove a teal or green-looking car, was a big man with a fat gut, in his late 50s, who was Caucasian, had sandy red colour hair, a thick neck and looked weathered. With such a detailed description, has anyone come forward to identify this man? She reiterates that in the whole time her mum and dad had lived at Kendal, there had never ever been cars parked on that street ever. I question such a broad statement. Kendal is where the family were visiting. It was not their home address, and as stated by the foster mother, the last time she had visited Kendal was back in February when they put her father into the ground. 7 months had passed from the burial of her father to when William went missing. 7 months where she was at least a 4-hour drive from Kendal. So how would she know that there had never ever been cars parked on that street ever? The foster mother's detailed description of the driver and the 3 vehicles and how suspicious they had appeared to her, which is obvious, with such statements as, "I locked eyes with the driver," and "Why are you watching me? I'm watching you, Clarence," she said was exchanged between them. Then why on earth was a 3-year-old left for even a moment, especially under such suspicious circumstances, to venture freely around this unfenced yard? Why wasn't the danger of such a situation not recognised? During the 000 call, when prompted by the operator to recall if there had been anyone suspicious in the area or any vehicles, her response was a decisive, No, not that I'm aware of. It is understandable in any crisis situation that important facts may escape your memory, but when you are prompted to recall with a direct question, and the 000 operator clearly did that, and you still answer with a definitive, no, not that I'm aware of, I can only conclude that if these vehicles were seen in Benaroon Drive, as alleged by the foster mother, then they were obviously not being viewed as a threat or as being in any way dangerous or overly suspicious. Because if they were, then the prompting by the 000 operator would surely have triggered the memory. What becomes obvious in the listening to the 000 call is that the foster mother had not only forgotten that when she awoke she had seen 2 suspicious cars with their driver's windows down parked in Benaroon Drive, she also had no recall of having seen these 2 cars later that morning when she glanced over her shoulder when out playing with William in the yard, and no recall of the 3rd car or the driver with the detailed description. All 3 had appeared rather disturbing and questionable to her around the time of William's disappearance, and yet they didn't exist in her response to the 000 operator. It wasn't until later that afternoon of the day that William went missing that she recalled any of these cars. She was on her way back from picking her sister up from Port Macquarie Airport, and she suddenly remembered the cars. She explained that when she arrived back to Benaroon Drive, she raced to where the police van was set up in the yard to let them know. If this story is true, I know of no other mother or foster mother who could have left the scene of their child's disappearance only hours later to drive to an airport almost 40 kilometres away to pick up a sister who was arriving. It appears inconceivable to even consider this as a possibility, or to even consider that the foster mother would have been in any clear state of mind to be able to get behind the wheel of a vehicle. There were many options open to her. She could have funded a taxi, and it goes without saying that almost anyone present on that day would have offered to do the trip to Port Macquarie. So how could the foster mother drive away? Did she not consider that William might be found at any moment, that he may be injured, he would need her? Did she not consider any of these thoughts? And if not, why not? Like the foster mother has pointed out on several occasions, she immediately knew that William had been abducted from the moment she turned the corner of the house and she couldn't see him. She just knew that someone had come along and gone clump on William's shoulders and moved him on. She claimed that there was no other way to explain his disappearance. Worst case scenarios may cross your mind among the many possibilities that could have happened to William on that day, but to be so definite, so immediate, as to select only one possibility and make that so, arouses a great deal of concern. It does not match with the assessment or image that the foster mother gives us when she points out how her brothers and sisters and all the neighbourhood kids roam Benaroon Drive without any fear, and that there is absolutely no reason not to feel safe at Nana's house. What makes this story even more disturbing is that, according to the inquest, the foster mother stated that it was 6 days after William's disappearance before she recalled having seen the 3 cars in Benaroon Drive. How could the initial story have changed so much? So did she recall that there were suspicious cars hanging about on the evening William went missing, as she stated? Or was it 6 days later that she recalled that there had been suspicious cars hanging about at the time of William's disappearance, as she stated? This whole case is loaded with contradictions. The foster mother explains how after William went missing, she searched the house so many times, checking every cupboard, every wardrobe. She went around the house too many times to count. She drove to the riding school, went to the end of Benaroon Drive to Batar Creek Road, where she thought she may have heard a child scream. She searched the neighbourhood with 2 different neighbours, one of which remained home from work to assist her in finding William. She went up and down Benaroon Drive searching everywhere, and this all supposedly took place before the foster father had even arrived back from town, and yet the foster father indicates by the pointing of his finger while he was being interviewed by the detective, and he then tells us that Beep, his wife, was sitting in a deck chair, and he asked her, "Where is he?" And she said, "He was here 5 minutes ago, here 5 minutes ago. I can't find him." We are told the foster mother is with a neighbour and runs up to her husband's car as he pulled into the driveway. We are told she meets him in the garage with William's sister at her side, and we are told she is sitting in a deck chair. So what is it? Had the foster mother been out searching the neighbourhood for William for all that time, as she claimed she had? Or had William just gone missing moments before the foster father arrived home? The foster father reaffirms that William had just gone missing when he points out to the detective how his wife had told him he was just here, just here. Either way, what is the foster mother doing sitting in a deck chair on the decking while such a critical situation is unfolding? From one statement to another, the story has changed, which is indicative of what happens when the truth isn't being told. I don't stand alone in this recognition. Many people have the same concerns, and we would like them addressed. The evidence is out there, and someone knows what happened to William. I thank you for your consideration in taking the time to assess what I have put forward. I conclude and ask that these contradictions get looked at with a closer eye to detail. Thank you.